Good evening. My name is Peter Sargant and I'm the CEO of Community Business. I joined Community Business in March of this year, taking over the role of CEO from Fern Nai, who I know spoke at the Philippine Financial Inter-Industry Pride Forum in Manila back in 2008. I'm very sorry that we're unable to do this in person today, but I'm delighted to have been invited to participate nonetheless. I thought I'd use this time to speak a little bit about Community Business and the work that we do, but also to speak about our upcoming LGBT Inclusion Index. Community Business is a non-profit organization established with a mission-led approach to advancing responsible and inclusive business practices in Asia, while harnessing the power of business to drive social change. At Community Business, all of the work that we do is underpinned by research, which we look at from an Asian perspective. And because of the content knowledge that we have, we are frequently invited to participate in various forums, conduct consultancy and training, to speak at conferences such as this, and to provide thought leadership on various responsible business topics, including diversity and inclusion. The work that we do on LGBT+ inclusion probably being what we are known best for. We consider ourselves an Asian organization. Founded in Hong Kong, we have a physical presence in Hong Kong, in India, and in the UK. But our work stretches across Asia with specific focus on China, Hong Kong, India, Japan, the Philippines, and Singapore, as markets where we've delivered a broad base of workplace content. For example, earlier this year, at the start of the COVID pandemic, we published Embracing Mental Health in the Workplace in the Philippines, a country-specific version of research we've done on mental health previously. And we are currently working on a piece of research on LGBT+ mental health, as we believe that underrepresented communities have been disproportionately impacted when it comes to mental health issues. In adopting an Asian lens to workplace best practice, as an organization, we work with many MNCs, particularly through our Diversity and Inclusion in Asian network, DIAN. Over the last 15 to 16 years, we have sought to ensure that DIAN issues and priorities that feature on the global agenda are understood in the local context, that engagement and conversation are happening locally, and that any form of progress is grounded in these realities. Diversity and inclusion is often incorrectly dismissed as a Western concept that has no relevance locally, and many companies have struggled to engage middle management and local stakeholders. Of course, it is somewhat true that in many respects, D&I requires an approach and set of behaviors that could be at odds with Asian cultural norms. But through our research, for example, examining D&I from an Asian perspective, we sought to dig a bit deeper and unpick this. And as with most of our research, we explored local dynamics and inclusion issues on a market-by-market basis. And of course, we found that although different approaches and language might be needed, the need for inclusion and belonging and negative impact of being excluded or discriminated against is felt in all cultures. We identified that in order to engage local management, it's important to frame the conversation in a way that resonates with the business locally. We found that introducing the concepts of insider-outsider groups and unconscious bias to be particularly effective. This year, we have seen significant interest in this kind of consultancy and training work, as well as a greater level of participation from senior and middle management as companies strive to work in a different and virtual environment. Let me talk for a moment about some of our recent conversations and priorities. First of all, local representation. The conversation on how to increase the representation of local Asian talent in leadership remains, and we have done a lot of work on this. In looking at the top ranks of organizations, many observed that the most senior positions were held by non-Asians. That has been a really important topic for us over the years, and we have done a couple of key studies highlighting that many companies have a challenge with Western bias in their talent management process, and this can present a real barrier to the progress of local talent. Race. This past year has opened a door for us to all talk about race. The Black Lives Matter movement in America has sent shockwaves across the world and has sparked a range of reactions in Asia. Whilst the original movement is understood and supported in varying degrees, Black Lives Matter plays out very differently in the region. But I truly believe it provides an opportunity for us to do some work in this area. But it plays out differently because of local historical context and local historical difference and cultural context. We've taken a look at how the movement has had a ripple effect in Asia, generating growing interest in conversations and actions addressing underlying structural causes of inequalities that hinder social mobility and inclusion in different sections of society across Asia. More, of course, needs to be done to fully explore this topic and to see how best to progress. So please watch this space. Mental health. Many may shy away from this sensitive topic, nervous about the language and unsure about how to address the issue within their organizations. However, with the growing incident of mental health in Asia, particularly in light of the upheaval the past year has wrought in our lives and the knock-on effect on productivity and performance, opening up conversations and proactively addressing issues relating to mental health is increasingly important for our companies. We have also highlighted the need to support the specific needs of particular groups. For example, the intersectionality between LGBT+ and mental health issues. So on to LGBT+. Over the decade, there has been tremendous progress, not only through our own campaigns, but through the efforts and hard work of many companies and a multitude of advocacy groups. It is interesting, when we first started looking at this topic back in 2009, 2010 in Asia, LGBT+ was a highly sensitive and taboo topic. As we first thought about doing work in this space and planning the index, our board, for example, was extremely hesitant. From a business perspective, many questioned what discussions of LGBT+ had to do with business. We've come a long way since then. Certainly here in Hong Kong, you just need to think of the flurry of LGBT+ community activities, the series of high-profile court cases, and of course the popularity of our LGBT+ index and awards. Even in other markets where the environment has been more challenging, such as India and Singapore, we have seen a completely new level of openness on this topic. We like to think that through our research and persistent engagement with companies on this topic, we have played a part in that. We officially launched our Creating Inclusion Workplaces for LGBT Employees campaign in 2009, and then developed a series of employee guides for Hong Kong, China, and India in 2011, conducted the groundbreaking Hong Kong LGBT climate study, which provided companies with a compelling business case for LGBT inclusion. In early 2014, we believed that the dialogue on LGBT workplace inclusion had matured, and that Hong Kong was ready for an index that would engage and move organizations forward in their LGBT journey. As such, we launched our LGBT+ Inclusion Index in late 2014, and next year, we will be conducting our fourth iteration of the index. In 2015, we also launched our annual LGBT+ Awards. Next year, in 2021, we plan to launch the new LGBT+ mentoring program. Over the last decade, there has been a tremendous progress, not only through our own campaign, but through the efforts and hard work of many companies and advocacy groups. We have seen facilitation of greater openness and discussion on the topic, not just in Hong Kong, but across the region. But we also know that there is still much work to be done. So to our Inclusion Index for 2021. We encourage companies to participate in this because we truly believe that it not only drives forward LGBT inclusion, but it helps provide a roadmap for diversity and inclusion in general, and has been used by some companies to track their progress on other diversity topics. In summary, it takes an it takes an entire movement of people, one could say an army, to create change. And we partner with many organizations worldwide and are delighted that our work on LGBT inclusion has been recognized globally. We have also contributed to Stonewall's workplace briefing for Hong Kong, and our work was mentioned in UN Standards of Conduct for Business to tackle discrimination against LGBT+ people. Thank you, and we invite you to participate in our index, and we welcome any questions you might have.